Welcome to PcVue Tutorials. This first part of the tutorial will discuss the archive mechanism in PcVue, what we call an archive unit, and how to define a proprietary archive unit. PcVue records and displays the data in different manners, depending on the needs. The first step is to define how the data will be recorded. PcVue supports several data recording systems defined through archive units used to configure the way the data are recorded. As we'll see later, different types of archive units exist depending on the system used to record the data to the disk. You can record a bit or register value and display the value in a trend viewer. You can also record different events such as alarm status, bit changes, or user action like log in, log off, or commands and display a list of events in a log viewer. You can configure several archive units of same or different types, and the same data can be recorded to several archive units at the same time. For example, we'd like to be able to display the recorded value of the time of the use for the light in a trend viewer. Also, we'd like to display a list of the recorded alarm status for the light, as well as the different on-off commands for the light. The configuration of archive units is done from the Application Explorer in the section Archives. To add a new archive unit, just right-click on the topic Archive Unit under Archives and open the pop-up menu Add an Archive Unit. There's different types of archive units which determine which system and format is used to record the data. The database unit defines the archive unit that will record the data to an industry-standard database such as SQL Server using the Historical Data Server HDS of PcVue. This solution offers many advantages such as high performance, advanced functionalities like a native automatic redundant mechanism, and the possibility to access the data with a third-party product. But it is very important to note that this requires a lot of disk space. The proprietary unit defines a native system to record data in a proprietary manner in a text file. This solution optimizes space and is very powerful but does not allow a third-party product to access the data. The free unit defines a native system to record data in ASCII format, fully configurable. This solution is only used if access to the data is required in a simple ASCII file format by third-party product. The ODBC unit defines a native system using ODBC drivers to record data in the ODBC database in fixed format tables. The VCR unit defines a native system to record data in a proprietary file format specific to the VCR functionality. In this tutorial, we'll discuss the proprietary archive unit. First, enter a name for the archive unit. The name is limited to a maximum of 12 characters, and it is also the name of the folder in which the physical files are located. By default, this folder is located in the folder TH of the project. You can define the maximum size of the folder as well as the size of each file within the folder. Let's discuss how this works. To record the data, PcVue first creates a file in the archive unit folder and writes the data to it. When the file reaches the maximum size defined for a file, a second file is created and filled, and so on. When the folder size defined is reached, PcVue discards the oldest file and creates the next one in the sequence. For this project, we will define 1 megabyte for the archive unit and 10 kilobytes for the file. These values are not realistic and are used only for the tutorial demonstration. It's also possible to define a register variable used by PcVue to store the fill rate of the archive unit. Click the ellipsis button to access the variable selector and create a new register. Enter a name, for example, fill rate. And the value returned by PcVue is a percentage, so we can define the unit as a percentage and define the format to display the value when its unit as well as the max value equal to 100. Click OK and select the variable. As you can see, advanced tabs exist for backup and networking, which we'll discuss in the advanced tutorial. Also, you can see we can now define items for this archive unit, such as filters to record events called log lists, variables to be recorded as a trend, and additionally filters to create log reports. This last topic will also be discussed in the advanced tutorial. In this part of the tutorial, we'll discuss the historical trends mechanism, how to record a historical trend in proprietary archive unit, and how to display a historical trend. PcVue can record bit and register variables to be displayed as a trend. To be recorded, the variable must be declared as an archive unit. There are two ways to declare a variable as a trend. The first one is to add the variable from the section Trend under the archive unit. Double-click on Trends and click the icon to add a new variable. You can select the variable from the variable selector, and here we will select the time variable. It is possible to define a specific bit to inhibit the record of the variable depending on the value of the bit. And it is also possible to define a filtering period. Let's discuss how this works. The value of the variable is recorded only if it changes during the filtering period, and the most recent value is recorded along with the time at the end of the period. For example, here the filtering period is equal to 10 seconds. At 10 seconds, PcVue records the value 2. At the next period, 20 seconds, the value is still equal to 2, but the value is not recorded. If the value changes at the next period, it will then be recorded, and so on. It's important to note that with a proprietary archive system, the filtering period is not a sampling period, and it's not possible to record a point periodically. By default, the filtering period is equal to 0, and the value of the variable will be recorded each time it changes. As you can see, different advanced tabs exist and will be discussed in an advanced tutorial. So our first variable as a trend has been created. Now we're going to add another variable as a trend. For example, we will add the bit on/off. There is also another way to create a trend. From the variable section within the variable tree, select the variable to be added as a trend. Then select from the bottom menu the archive unit you want the trend to add. Here we select My Archives. We left the default values and we validate. The variable is now defined as a trend and is in the archive unit My Archives. And as a result, the variable has been created as a trend in the Archives section of My Archives unit as shown. The variables we just defined as trends are now being recorded, and obviously we'd like to be able to display them. The trend viewer is exactly what we need. It's a specific tool which displays up to 8 variables as trends either in real-time or historical mode. Switch to design mode, and you can insert a trend viewer from the Insert menu. It's also possible to insert different trend viewers in the same screen and in the same project. As you can see, the trend viewer has many properties covered in a specific tutorial, and we're going to see here the way it used to display the historical trends. First, we select the variable to be displayed. We select the variable on/off and the variable time. For this variable, we select this type, and we display the value up to 100. We will add some items to the legend, such as the visibility and scale, and the name of the variable, the real-time value, and the cursor value. We enable the legend and the time information. As we'd like to display the historical values, we set the start mode historical. You can resize and move the trend viewer anywhere in your Mimic, just as any other object in PcVue. Let's switch into Runtime and click on the Historic button to select the period for the values to be displayed. Click Apply to request the value, and then click OK to go back to the display. And here it is. The recorded values are now displayed. You can even zoom a part of the display. So let's click on the Zoom button here and select the area you would like to zoom. And if you want, you can display the scale with those buttons from the legend. And you can even use the cursor button to see a specific value on the curve. In this part, we will discuss the event log mechanisms, how to define an event log for proprietary units, and how to display an event log. PcVue is able to record three kinds of events: an alarm event when alarm status changes, and a bit event when a bit value or status changes, and a user action event such as a set value, acknowledge or mask an alarm, log in, log out, or execute a program. To define trends, we configured each variable as a trend in an archive unit. To record events, the mechanism is different, and we define one or more log lists which set filters of events to be recorded. A log list is attached to a specific archive unit to record as well as to print output events and to display with a log viewer. To make a variable, bit or alarm, eligible for recording through log list filters, we select in its configuration the property log. All user actions are eligible for logging without requiring any configuration. A log list can also be linked to a printer unit when only printed output and not recording is required. The same events can be logged by one or more log lists. It's possible to find log lists attached to different types of archive units filtering different events. Here the log list 1 records all events in a proprietary archive unit and prints it to printer 1. The log list 2 records only the alarms in the database archive unit. User logon and log off are only printed through the printer log list as shown. The first step is to define the log list. The configuration of log lists is done from the Application Explorer in the section Archives. We're going to first define a log list within the unit My Archives. To add a new log list, right-click on Log List and select Add a Log List. Enter a name for the log list, for example, All Events. And here it is possible to select a printer declared in PcVue and format to print events whenever they occur. Click on the ellipsis button to get more formats available. It is also possible to inhibit the record of events depending on the value of a specific bit. This could be very useful to avoid recording data while a process is in maintenance, for example. The tab Event Filter defines the events to be logged with the log list. Alarm events, also the bit changes, and the user actions. You can also define the alarm level for the alarm to be logged. Here we left all the events that were selected. The other two tabs will be discussed in the advanced tutorial. Click OK, and the log list is now created. We're going to create now a log list to print user logon and log off. As we don't want to record these events, we use a printer log list. Under the Printer section, right-click on Log List and add a log list. Enter a name, for example, User Printer, and a description. Select the printer number, and in the Event Filter tab, leave only the user logon ticked. The printer log list is now ready to go, and the next user logon or log off will be printed. The next step is to allow a variable to be logged. Open the variable tree under the Variables section and select the variables to be logged. For example, the variable on/off. Double-click to access its properties, and here you have the log property. If the property is ticked, the value will be logged if the log list exists. As we want this value to be logged, we tick the property. We can do the same for the alarm time high. And that's it. Our variables are now ready to be logged. Events such as switching on or switching off the light, as well as the alarm for the light, are filtered through a log list and recorded to a disk through an archive unit we just defined. You're going to see how easy it is to display the data. PcVue comes native with a log viewer, a tool that displays lists of events filtered and recorded through a single log list. You can insert a log viewer from the Insert menu, and it's possible to insert different log viewers in the same screen and in the same project. The log viewer displays the data recorded through a log list filter. The first step is to select the log list for the log viewer from the combo box. You cannot display data from more than one log list at one time in one log viewer. Automatically, the event filter defined in the log list is applied to the log viewer display filter. It's possible then to change the event in the display filter. The log viewer is extremely flexible both in its appearance and operation and has a large number of configurable properties. The Display tab is used to configure general display settings, and for example, you can change the color of the background. The log viewer can display a maximum of 8 columns with a fully customizable content. You can configure the column title and the display format in the corresponding columns using substitution characters. Let's click the Help button to access to the online help. The topic, Configuring the Log Viewer line format. Here it shows all the format possibilities. And for example, we can add a substitution to display the threshold value triggering an alarm. And here we will enter the title for the new column, Threshold. Add the substitution #C to display the threshold value. And from the Execution tab, you can select the number of lines to be displayed, authorize the operator to print the selected event by clicking the print icon in the toolbar, select the allowances or authorizations that the operators are permitted at runtime, and for example, you can tick the Enable Sorting to have the lists of events sorted according to the content of a particular column. The sort modification is then automatically ticked to allow the user to change the sort column and direction. Click OK to validate, and you can resize and move the log viewer anywhere in your Mimic as any other object. Switch to Run mode, and you can see the log viewer and the last events recorded. It's possible to adapt the size of the columns. And don't be fooled. Even if it looks like an alarm viewer, the data displayed here is not in real time, which means that to see a new recorded event, you have to refresh the display. For example, if I switch on the light and reset the time, the alarm generated is displayed in the alarm viewer, but not in the log viewer. The log viewer display has to be refreshed. A fast and easy way to do that is click on the button from the scroll bar here as shown. And here it is. We can now see the last events. As configured in the properties, we can sort the data displayed according to a specific column. For example, click on the event header, and if you click again, the direction changes. The menu allows to filter the list to be displayed with different status, such as the alarms, and other actions such as log to 1 and log to 0, command send, alarm acknowledgement, and user log on log off. For example here, I filter to display only the alarms. And it's possible to display data recording during a specific period. Click the Time Filter button. You can either search data earlier or later for a specific date or from data to the date. Click Apply to see the result. And if you right-click on the menu, you can change the location of the menu and even its contents. Depending on the authorization from the Execution tab, the user can access to a filter pop-up when they click on this button. And from here, the user can select the new filters to be displayed in the log viewer. And thank you for joining PcVue Solutions Tutorials.